Hello everyone, and welcome to the Northwest Geriatric Workforce Enhancement Center's Geriatric Healthcare Lecture Series. My name is Barbara Cochran, and I'm the director of the DeTournier Center for Healthy Aging here in the School of Nursing. I'm also associate director for the Northwest GWEC, so we all welcome you here. And today is my pleasure to introduce Jane Cornman. Jane has been a member of the University of Washington School of Nursing's faculty for over 30 years. I think I've known you that whole time. During that time, she was the project director of the NIH NCCAM funded R25 Complementary and Alternative Medicine grant, director of the UW School of Nursing School of Medicine Faculty Integrative Health Program, and co-directed the HRSA-funded School of Nursing Integrative Nurse Graduate Certificate Program. She has been a Therapeutic Touch practitioner since 1979, a certified health and wellness coach since 2012, and taught courses at UW including mind-body skills, learning wellness, holistic health, and integrative health and wellness coaching. So you can see she is very well qualified, and we're looking forward to hearing her talk about CAM, IHC, and older adults. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you, Barb. And we don't look a day over 30 years ago, eh?
That's right.
That's right. Okay. Welcome, those of you that are here, and welcome to people out there. Hi. When I agreed to do this talk, I'm from New Jersey, just to let you know, it'll come through. After 30 years, it's still there, still the Jersey girl. I had done a similar talk about 4 or 5 years ago, and I realized that it was actually going to be fun, which shows you how an academic is a little bit skewed. But I actually thought it would be fun to go back into the literature and see if things were backing up the way I thought they would, the current ideas that have to do with integrative healthcare, and they do. So I was very pleased about that. Now, you'll notice even the opening slide, I have here CAM as well as IHC and older adults, and the reason for that is because the change is very recent, and I'll be explaining that in just a minute. So what is CAM? The word CAM was introduced in 1996, and the official definition from the NIH website was that it was a group of diverse medical and healthcare systems, practices, and products, not generally considered part of conventional medicine. So we have really come a long way. The NCCAM institution has now become NCCIH, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. And part of the reason for that is because there are more and more and more people utilizing integrative techniques. It really is a different system in that it's healing oriented. It's not disease oriented. And it's preventative as well as holistic. All of those labels apply. It really emphasizes the therapeutic relationship between the caregiver and the patient or client. And it makes use of all appropriate therapies, whether they're labeled conventional and or alternative, based on the evidence base for that particular modality. So the name change, it's not as catchy, NCCIH, but the rationale does show that there are more folks using complementary methods, and they are integrating them into their usual care. Also, in the traditional healthcare systems, more and more hospitals and clinics are providing complementary services as part of their standard of care. Now, this NCCAM classification comes from the old label of NCCAM and not NCCIH. But I'm including it because I think they did a great job of classifying the various therapies. And I wanted you to just have a sense of how broad this label is, in that it includes a great deal of modalities. And some of these I'm sure you're familiar with, and some you may not be. So that'll be a learning experience. The first classification, the first area is mind-body, which includes things like Tai Chi, meditation, imagery, art and music, etc., even humor therapy. Okay. The second class is the alternative medical systems, and this includes traditional Chinese medicine, frequently referred to as TCM. Now, TCM includes acupuncture as well as herbals, and I learned the correct way of saying that by the botanical director out at Bastyr. I used to say herbals, now I don't say that anymore. And there are other systems of medicine, Ayurvedic, homeopathy, naturopathy. The third classification is biologically based therapies. These also include herbs, special diet therapies, the Ornish macrobiotic, but also less familiar things like pharmacological, biological, or instrumental interventions like using bee pollen, cartilage, or iridology. The next to last classification is the manipulative and body-based systems. This is a huge category because it includes chiropractic, massage, and body work, as well as PT. So you see, it really covers a great deal of territory. And what I'd like to point out under massage and body work, there are many different categories. There's craniosacral massage, reflexology, polarity, Traeger, etc., Rolfing. So people think of massage, and they typically think of Swedish massage, which is the most commonly known in this country, and sometimes sports massage. But there are many, many different types of massage. So if a client or a patient says they are seeing a massage therapist, it would behoove you to ask what type of massage, and then if it's not something you're familiar with, ask them for more information, or also check out online at the very least, but preferably in a reliable source, what that kind of massage is supposed to be for. The last, but one of my favorite categories, is energy therapies, and this includes therapeutic touch, healing touch, Reiki, Qigong, as well as magnet therapies. So you can see how broad the classification system is and how inclusive these are. And this really is not everything. There's even more. So let's look at CAM, or integrative healthcare, in context. First of all, the use of it continues to increase. It seems that in older adults, it has increased steadily. Since 1993, it's been just a linear progression. And then about 2007, it evened off. Okay, but it is still on the rise, just not at the same rate. There were 34% of adults in the United States in 1993 that acknowledged that they used some form of CAM. That went up to 38.3. And as I say, in adults, that has evened off, but it continues to go up a little bit more for older adults. Back in 97, this got people's attention. $21.2 billion was spent on complementary therapies, with almost $34 billion in 2007. Again, that's increasing slightly each year since then. And it's been determined that 58% to 88% of older adults use some form of integrative healthcare. Now, this is an interesting statistic. Even though we have a lot of people using integrative health care, we only have a minority of people disclosing that to their primary care providers. Okay. Some of the reasons are, as you would imagine, they think that their provider will think it's not a valid form of therapy. Some people acknowledge that their primary care person doesn't know what they were talking about, even if they brought it up, so that they're not informed providers. So why do folks use them? These are some of the rationale that Barbie Dossi talks about in her text on integrative nursing. Patients want to avoid the side effect of meds or treatments that at times are worse than the disease. They also are wanting a provider who listens and cares about them. And usually that means having some time to spend with them. So it's more than a 10-minute appointment. Okay. Patients want to be treated holistically. They want somebody who cares about body, mind, as well as spirit, not just what is your problem that you have today as you walk in the door, or what can I do for you, but rather, how are you? And asking questions that acknowledge and demonstrate that they care about all the different parts of you, not just your physical health. So patients want an approach to health and illness that resonates with their world more keenly, more specifically than conventional medicine does. Now, there was a huge number of possibilities on that NCCAM classification system, so I had to narrow it down because we couldn't possibly cover it all in the time that we have. So what I decided was to do kind of 3 big areas and then focus in on a few modalities within each of those areas. So I'm going to be talking about meditation, and then I'm going to be talking about movement, and then touch. Okay? So, meditation. Meditation and medicine, interestingly enough, come from the same root word that means to measure or to take care of, to take care for. There are as many definitions for meditation as there are forms of meditation. There are hundreds of forms of meditation. But some of the definitions that I extracted that I thought would help people get a sense of it, it's being in this moment. Many people are familiar with mindfulness. It's one of the most popular evidence-based forms of meditation. And that's what they're talking about, is being in this moment, being aware of you in your body at this point in time, not worrying about the past or anxious about the future, but just being right here. Other ways of thinking of it is a balance of awareness and concentration and energy. You are focused, not on what you're doing, but on your being. Okay? Some people think of it as a quiet period of intentional silence. Okay? But I'll show you that doesn't quite cover the map in this next slide. There are thousands of meditative techniques, and this is one way, according to the Levies, who are local meditation teachers here in Seattle. This is one way of classifying some of the different modes of meditation: concentrative, receptive, reflective, and expressive. So under concentrative, for instance, saying prayers is a form of meditation. Doing visualization is a form of meditation. Even doing yoga, and for sure transcendental meditation. That and mindfulness have the biggest evidence-based body of literature. Okay. Receptive meditation, vipassana, you might be familiar with, but mindfulness is definitely in that category. Reflective or analytical is typically when somebody is meditating on a particular question, on something that they're trying to derive meaning or some sort of understanding of. So it really is a disciplined thinking that you do for insight on that particular concept or question. And then expressive. A lot of people don't think of expressive meditations, but you can do walking meditations. Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a lovely Vietnamese monk who teaches a lot of different types of meditation, always teaches people coming to his workshops walking meditation as well as sitting meditation, so that you can understand that you can move and still be in the present moment. Chanting is another form of expressive meditation. Whirling, like the whirling dervishes. I don't know if you've ever seen them when they come to Seattle. It's absolutely amazing. But the dance is a form of trance and meditation for them. Okay, and there are other types where you do fast breathing. Now, meditation is one of the first interventions. NIH recommends it as the first intervention to use in treating hypertension. So not medications, but first meditation. So it's interesting, meditation, not medication first, then you can try other methods in conjunction with, okay? But they've found that it is so incredibly effective because it reduces anxiety, and amazingly enough, it increases self-esteem. That's not something that you would think of, I don't think, with regards to doing a meditation. Certainly, it decreases agitated behavior, and it increases relaxation. And even in elders with advanced dementia. My husband, who is a physician who treats Medicaid clients over in Kitsap County, he was amazed when I read him this article just yesterday saying that, in fact, with people who have severe dementia, that they were able to focus better than people who had no cognitive impairment at all. So this idea that, well, if somebody's cognitively impaired, they can't possibly do any of these modalities. In fact, they can, and they're better at it than some of us. So it's not something to kind of say, oh, well, they can't do it, which I think is something we come to a little bit too hastily when it comes to working with people with progressive dementia. There are physiological changes with meditation that have been documented, and so there's plenty of scans that have been done to demonstrate the changes in brainwave activity in the frontal cortex and the limbic system and hypothalamus. This is one reason that we try and get kids even as, well, we get kids in grammar school, thank goodness now, but we definitely want to grab kids in middle school, and it's a bonus if you get them before high school and you can teach them some forms of meditation, because that way they can learn how to calm themselves and increase their self-esteem. So the benefits are far-reaching. There is increased parasympathetic activity and increased in heart rate variability, which is positive. You want those conditions. We know there's changes in the neurotransmitter levels, increased serotonin, beta endorphin, melatonin, acetylcholine, and decreased norepinephrine and cortisol. So all those triggers that make us anxious. We talk about back in the caveman days, it used to be that when the caveman saw a tiger, they were in the fight or flight stance. These days, it's usually when you're on I-5 and somebody cuts you off, and it feels like it's a tiger because every part of your system reacts as if there were a tiger in front of you. This is one way to help you realize that you can soothe yourself and you don't have to be on that hair trigger response. Okay, which happens, unfortunately, in our society so many times a day. It's not just a disparate, small little occurrence. So, in terms of movement, I can't emphasize this enough. The World Health Organization says that physical inactivity is the fourth leading global risk factor for morbidity and premature mortality. So it's like, if we could put that in capital letters somehow, I think it would be worthwhile. There's a wonderful article that came out last year called Killer Chairs, because the idea is that we are all sitting far, far, far too much. And it talks about how you have to get up out of the chair, talks about those desks that they now have where you can be walking and working at your desk. I haven't gone that far, but I have put at least a signal on my computer so that at least once an hour I'm up out of the chair and walking around and doing something to get the circulation going and doing some stretching. So older adults, defined as age 65 and older. So the last time I gave this talk, I wasn't yet an older adult. Now I'm an older adult. They're the least physically active of any age group, and they generate the highest expenditures for medical care. So it's like, okay, what's the payoff for getting people moving? Longer life, healthier, all of those other variables. So the Department of Health and Human Services advises us to avoid inactivity, participate in regular aerobic activity, to do muscle strengthening and exercise that maintains or improves balance. We all know about the incidence of falls in older adults, and it's something that people are very wary of when you get to a certain age. And there are many different movements that can decrease that risk factor. So, yoga and Tai Chi are just two of these that I'm going to talk about for a little bit. It was really fun going online and finding slides of older adults doing the different modalities. It was wonderful. I don't know if you can, I think you can see well enough. On the right-hand picture, it's a young woman, but she's teaching all these people at a nursing home in wheelchairs. So you don't have to be able to get up and do all the stretches. In fact, you don't have to get up, period. And you don't have to be able to do all the stretches. But the fact that you try to do the ones that are suitable for your current state of mobility, that's what's so important. So I think that's a great slide there. And you notice in the bottom, the people aren't in wheelchairs, but they're still in chairs. They're not able to get up and actively go on mats on the floor, but that doesn't stop them, which is marvelous. Now, I thought this was an interesting data point, that the use of yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong have increased linearly over the 3 time points, 2002, 07, and 2012. It's just going up and up and up. And of those 3, yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong, yoga was the most commonly used of all 3 approaches. And the amount of people doing yoga just keeps going up every year in all the age groups. Okay. So, what are some of the self-reported benefits? Adults who used yoga in one study were 5 times more likely to report that they were doing it for wellness reasons rather than treating a health condition. So they want to stay well. Okay. More than 2/3 reported that they used yoga because they perceive it focuses on the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. And also they found that it improved their energy level. Okay. How many people here have tried yoga? Well, this is good. Okay, if it's right in with the statistics. Okay, so what are some of the benefits? Again, improved balance. So with that movement comes improved balance. So less likely to fall and to break a hip, break something. More flexible, increased range of motion and strength. It also, similar to meditation, helps reduce your heart rate and your blood pressure. Now, why is that? Well, the wonderful part is that you're kind of combining what we've just talked about is many types of yoga are a combination of movement and meditation, so that you are you are very, very present to your body at this point in time when you're doing a yoga pose. So you're overlapping meditative techniques and movement techniques. Okay, so you get 2 benefits. It's a twofer, as we say. It's used with a variety of health conditions. It's not just for people who are totally well, but people with cancer, depression, pain, anxiety, insomnia, fatigue, and mood disorders. That covers a lot right there. Okay. What's lovely, too, is that there are marked improvements in people feeling more clear-mindedness. They feel as if they can think more clearly. They can focus better. They are more composed. They don't kind of fly off the handle. And their happiness ratings go up, as well as self-confidence and energy. I mean, this is pretty cool. If somebody said, okay, you can either take this pill or you can do yoga and meditate and get all these benefits, I think a lot of people might consider skipping, a med that might be harmful to them. And what's wonderful is that you can have things going on concurrently. If the medications are appropriate for your condition, you can be taking the meds, and it's almost like icing on the cake. You can be doing the yoga and meditation and getting those benefits as well. As long as you are monitored by somebody who's giving you the prescriptions for those meds so that if your need for the medication decreases, that somebody can be monitoring that with you. Okay. There's probably not time to go here, but I included it so that people could go to this link because there are 3 beautifully short and nicely focused videos on yoga through it says through NCCAM on the website, but it's actually through the NCCIH people. Okay. Now, just as in any movement for older people, and I'm using the term movement because as a health coach, I learned a while back that some people don't like the word exercise. If you say, do you exercise? They're like, ugh. You know, there's only, ugh. So exercise, for some reason, has that kind of, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But if you say, how about movement? Are you doing anything to move? That's different because then they think, oh, you know, I go for a walk. I walk my dog, which is great. Everybody that has a dog, it gets them out of the house, you know, twice a day and around the block. So if you use the term movement with people, they're less likely to react negatively. So any movement therapy requires taking precautions. Now, yoga helps you, and Tai Chi helps you with balance problems, but if you have balance problems, that needs to be known to the teacher, okay? If you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, of course, because if you're bending down, you don't want to have somebody have a TIA or a stroke. Certain eye conditions, again, because of pressure to the eye, like glaucoma, or if they have severe osteoporosis, okay, you don't want any broken bones, and artificial joints. Now, these don't mean that you cannot do yoga. They just mean that you have to let the teacher know so that you can safely do the various positions. But I think that's kind of common sense. There is a wonderful article by Krukov on the bibliography at the end, and it talks about a therapeutic program. It's how to teach yoga to seniors. So the program is specifically for any yoga teacher who thinks he or she will have senior folks in their class, which is incredibly highly likely these days, now that we know that it's going up like this in terms of being utilized. So this article talks so beautifully about all of the ways that if you're teaching yoga to seniors, what you have to integrate into your program and what you need to be aware of. So all those things I just talked about in terms of precautions, they teach them about those. And how do you change the postures? What do you eliminate? What do you include? How do you modify your expectations for these people? But see, these are some of the ideas, the principles of practice. First, do no harm. That's a familiar phrase. Creating a safe environment so that nobody feels like they're being pushed beyond what is safe for them to do. And meeting people where they are, not where there's no shoulds in this. When I teach health coaching, I say to people, you know, do not should on anybody else or yourself, okay? Be a guardian of safety because people are looking to you as the teacher to keep them safe in the classroom. And this sounds so basic, but I think it's a really important thing. You're teaching people. You're not teaching poses or people that have conditions. You're teaching the people. So rather than saying, yes, I'm teaching a class for cancer patients, you're teaching a class for people. And in that class, there are people who have been diagnosed with cancer. So it's teaching people, not poses or conditions. Okay, second in this movement category, I'm including Tai Chi because it is the second most popular movement modality utilized by people over 65. For some, I think most people are somewhat familiar with Tai Chi in terms of they've seen it done at the very least. And it's very beautiful. The picture kind of gives you a sense of the really beautifully graceful movements. There are particular postures that the teacher takes you through, and it's been around for over 2,000 years. And it's very slow movements of the hands and the feet and the whole body. Again, this is another form of meditation, because as you're doing it, you really have to focus on what's happening here and now with you in this body, in this posture. Okay? There are incredibly wonderful benefits to also doing Tai Chi. The physical functioning, bodily pain goes down. People feel more vital, more positive. They've done brisk walking exercises to see if it does improve their balance and flexibility, and it definitely does for the lower extremities. Again, it decreases the likelihood of falls, and it improves your static balance. There are so many postures in Tai Chi where you are holding and maintaining in one particular position that you begin to really develop your sense of balance and focus. And again, people say they get relaxed, they get energy, and they are less tired. A lot because they sleep better when they do things like this. For postmenopausal women, there's good studies of Tai Chi helping to maintain their bone mineral density. There's good study of patients that have knee osteoarthritis, that it improved their measures of pain, physical functioning, depression, which is really important, and their quality of life in general. Also, as I said before, most of these movement modalities improve your sleep quality, and that's a huge variable with older adults, is getting the right amount and good quality sleep. Okay. There's also a very interesting study that was done a while back where they had a class where they were teaching them Tai Chi, and they had a control group, and it was a nice random study, and they gave both sets of people the vaccine for shingles at the beginning, and after so many weeks, they tested both groups of people to see their immune response. And the people who've been doing the Tai Chi over 12 weeks, their immune response was so much higher. It was way statistically significant in terms of improving their immunity to the virus. So I thought that was pretty wonderful to be able to have something concrete and, numerical that you could point to that's a benefit. Now, I know this is not on the list, but this is a link that I've included so that if you have the time, it's a very short YouTube type video of, I think it's 3 minutes, but it's a beautiful example of using music also with elderly folks. And again, music can be another form of meditation, okay? And it's interesting that when you use music with elders, they are imagining themselves, even if they are not very mobile, they will imagine themselves going through the movements, and that helps them as well. Okay. Last but not least, in terms of the 3 modality categories, is touch. This is a beautiful quote by Ashley Montague. The language of the senses are capable of enlarging our appreciation and of deepening our understanding of each other and the world in which we live. Chief among these languages is touch. The communications we transmit through touch constitute the most powerful means of establishing human relationships. Now, why am I focusing so much on Ashley Montague's quote? Partly, I think it's because we have moved away from touch, particularly in healthcare. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of taking history and typing in the history and then notes at the same time. We don't take as much of an opportunity to literally reach out and touch the people that we're caring for in the medical system and the nursing system. So I think this is extremely important. So, touch, this is one definition of massage: manipulating the body's soft tissue, muscle, skin, tendon, and ligaments using, you'll notice, sometimes fingertips, sometimes hands, sometimes you'll see the young man in the lower right, possibly forearms, elbows, and even feet. There's all kinds of ways of doing massage. I've watched people lay down and be walked on, and that's for a massage on their back. It really ranges from very light stroking to deep, deep, and sometimes painful pressure techniques. So Rolfing is one example of very deep, very, very deep massage. But you have to have the permission, obviously, of your healthcare provider to do any of the touch techniques that are that deep. Again, there's many different types. Everybody, I would think, is pretty familiar with Swedish. Given Barb and I have been around nursing for quite a while, we probably both remember in the evenings we used to give back rubs to all the patients on our floor. That doesn't happen anymore, unfortunately. But we did kind of a modified Swedish massage to the back. There's also deep tissue. There's trigger point. Traeger is a wonderful form of massage where you're rocking people. You do the range of motion with the various joints, but you take them through passive range of motion, rocking all the different joints. It's very, very wonderful. Rolfing, I've mentioned, is very deep, deep, deep pressure massage. Craniosacral, it's interesting that I put them side or back to back. Craniosacral is probably the absolute exact opposite of Rolfing in that you can barely tell that somebody is holding in the back of your craniosacral area and doing a very, very gentle manipulation in the back of your head. Okay, so it's really in contrast to the Rolfing. These are only a few of the types of massage. Again, so if somebody says, I'm getting massage, ask them what type and find out more about that if it's not familiar to you. There are many, many benefits to massage. It does decrease pain and stiffness, just as meditation and yoga and Tai Chi. It does help decrease your blood pressure, decrease your heart rate, and obviously some massage is for sports-related injuries. Again, this also boosts your immunity, and it's wonderful for people who are undergoing cancer treatment because of having the fact that it alleviates moods, depression, boosts your immunity, decreases pain, all of those. So it's all helpful. I mentioned some of these mental benefits of massage. It's interesting that it helps manage anxiety as well as hostility. It's kind of like an agitation. It's kind of like on both ends of the spectrum. It manages depression. It also manages agitation. And so for elders with dementia, many times they are now teaching hand and foot massage at the nursing homes because they found that it decreases their agitation, particularly in the evenings. Obviously, it decreases loneliness. I went to a holistic health, back then it was called, in the 70s conference, and everybody had these t-shirts and it said 4 hugs a day. And I just thought it was the greatest t-shirt, and they said, yeah, that's the minimal amount of touch that it's been measured that you need every day. You need at least 4 hugs a day. So I went to a conference a few years ago, and somebody from that conference said to me, oh, it's up to about 10 now. You know, it's everybody is so incredibly touch deprived, good touch deprived, that everybody needs more hugs, which is one reason I went into pediatrics for a long time, because you got all the hugs you wanted by just going on the floor with the kids. That was wonderful. Again, just as in any of these modalities, you have, excuse me, you have to remember there are always precautions. So if somebody has some unexplained pain, obviously, burns or open wounds, if they have cancer, it doesn't mean they cannot have a massage. It means that who's ever doing the massage needs to understand what the side effects of their treatment is, where have they had surgery, if, et cetera, et cetera. So somebody needs to be informed. Obviously, blood clots, fractures, rheumatoid arthritis, or severe osteoporosis. Again, none of these say you can never have any massage. It just means that whoever is the masseuse needs to know what's going on, and they need to have experience with treating people with these particular challenges. Okay. For a while, when I had a private practice, my massage therapist was right across the hall, which was incredibly wonderful. But she had a wonderful background in treating people with a wide range of conditions, including pregnancy. And she even had a hole in her table so the women could be on the table and be on their tummy. And they thought they, went to heaven when they said that. Okay, and lastly, I'm just going to touch a little bit on touch therapies. Acupuncture, reflexology, and therapeutic touch, or to those of us in the field, we usually refer to it as TT. So if you hear somebody say, "Oh, do you do TT?" That's what they're talking about. Now, therapeutic touch is also called a biofield therapy. That might be something you've also heard or read about. But it's a contemporary interpretation of several ancient healing practices. And basically, the practitioner uses their hands to assess the person's energetic field with the belief, now we're going out on a limb here, I realize for some people, with the belief, though, that your energy field, the energy field around your physical body, actually mirrors what's going on within all of your body, mental, physical, all of that. It's all displayed in your energetic body. And people who learn to do TT develop their ability to assess your energetic field, and then they go back and attempt to bring it back to a state of wholeness and balance with the belief that we are all homeostasis beings. We're all trying to move towards healing. That's the direction that our bodies naturally want to go, and so we're just trying to help with that process. It is used a great deal with older adults for pain, anxiety. It's also been used with patients with advanced Alzheimer's. It definitely improves sleep. The one thing you can guarantee when you get a therapeutic touch treatment is that you will have the relaxation response evoked. So you can watch people, their color gets better, their respirations go down, you can see them just kind of relax in the seat. It's wonderful. But it's also been used for dying patients and their families. They're not trying to keep them alive, they're trying to provide comfort. Because it decreases pain and anxiety, it's a wonderful help to anybody in palliative care, in hospice care, to not only decrease the patient's anxiety, but also to have the family feel like they're providing some help to the person that's going through the dying process. What's wonderful here in Washington, we are really a wonderful state for this. 86% of hospices offer some sort of integrative health care to their patients. In a study that was done by COSAC back in 2009, these were the percentages, and I'm sure that they have gone up since that point in time. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I had to put a plug in because about 3+ years ago, I got certified as a health and wellness coach. And what I've done is been able to join integration, so integrative therapies, in with health and wellness coaching. And this really assists the clients in making the change that they want to make. It's wonderful to get out of the role of going like this and telling somebody what they should be doing. I can't do that as a coach, and it's wonderful. So you support and motivate them to make the changes they would like to make and that they feel motivated to make and can, to live a healthier life. And Real Balance, this is just a link if you wanted to find anything more out about it, health and wellness coaching. So this is kind of something of a wrap up, but I really want to convey that you are the most important part of the healing environment, because patients, clients say that it's whether they felt their caregiver cared about them, and that's what made a huge difference. It makes a huge difference in how effective any sort of prescriptive therapies you give them. Even if you simply are telling them to increase their movement, like how do you think you'd like to increase your movement on a daily basis? Even just doing that, but if they perceive you as caring genuinely, so you can't bullshit a patient or a client, okay? Probably not supposed to say that on the tape, but you can't do that. You can't BS a client, okay? They'll know. They'll know if you really care. So that in and of itself is a major focus of your healing energy. So I think it's extremely important that each time we walk into a patient, whether we're going into a patient's room or they're coming into our clinic and our office space, that we take a breath and that we really be fully present to each and every single client or patient that comes our way for care. So then you become part of the healing environment. That'd be wonderful. So, recommendations. Become familiar with the modalities that I talked a little bit about today, and maybe there's other ones on that classification system that grab your attention. That would be totally cool if you decided to get more information about those and see what the evidence base is for the various ones that you're interested in knowing more about. It's really important to ask patients routinely about whether they're using any integrative modalities, okay? Because as we saw in the earlier slide, most patients don't even tell their healthcare providers that they're using anything for various reasons that we talked about. But it's really important for you to ask, and you need to ask in a way that means I'm open to hearing what you're using. So if a person says, well, I'm doing polarity therapy, and you're like, what? That is probably not the right way to respond to that patient. But you can say, I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me more about it? And then say, I'm going to be looking this up because I'm really curious. I'd like to know more about it. Okay, if you're using it, that's important to me to know more about it. Also, supporting health coverage for things that are effective, things that do have an evidence base. That's what NCCAM and NCCIH is all about, is they're supporting an evidence-based for these different modalities and being mindfully present to older adults. Unfortunately, in our culture, there is kind of a rumor that we don't value our older adults like some cultures do, and I would love to totally dismantle that and demonstrate that we really do treasure the people that have come before us and that we can learn from them. It's funny, I was telling Barb along those lines, my mother-in-law is turning 100 in March. And as soon as she heard I was doing this today, she goes, oh, can I watch? So I'm going to be sending it somehow to her so that she can watch it. She's totally involved, totally positive, and wants to do everything to stay as well as she can. And she keeps saying, I just can't believe I'm going to be 100. How did I get here? So. Now, I've included this slide just for 10 seconds or however long you'd like to look at this. I was honored to present in Iceland last year at the first Integrative Nursing Symposium, and I talked about self-care and our connection to nature. And I think it's extremely important that we take care of our earth and ourselves by joining with the earth. Okay, now the rest of these are a bunch of resources. So when you look at the handouts, you can click on, it's fun, you'll click on all kinds of stuff. The American Holistic Nursing Association is obvious. Bastyr is local. It's an incredible resource. You can go out there and just walk around their herb garden and feel better, or take a walk on the reflexology path and your feet might hurt, but that's showing you that you needed to go on the reflexology path. Okay. Nurses Improving Care for Elders, that's a wonderful website. I mentioned Teaching Yoga to Seniors, that article, and the videos. There's an international association, Therapeutic Touch International Association, that for TT, but we also have a local Seattle chapter. The Touch Research Institute is a marvelous resource for any type of massage or massage research that you need. University of Minnesota has wonderful modules for health professionals on all different types of integrative health modalities. So I highly recommend going to that link and playing around with all the different modules about all the different modalities. And this is a little boring, but it's all the stuff that I had to look up to make sure that I was saying what was really true for this. Okay. All right. So that's that. I think we should go back to the tree. for while we're doing questions, don't you think? Yeah, it's a lot better in references. I don't even know. I'm assuming it's down in the California Redwoods, but I don't know for sure. No, I should have, eh? I should have put an Iceland slide in there. It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I highly recommend. They have those stopovers now that you can go to Iceland for like 3 days without paying extra on your airfare. If you're going like to Europe or someplace like that, you can stop off in Iceland for 3 days. I highly recommend it. Yeah. I don't get any payoff for saying that. So Barb, are there questions?
From the room while they start getting their questions ready from a distance?
Yes.
You mentioned something about hospitals offering complementary services as standard of care. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Can you speak more to that?
Sure.
Hospitals and what services?
Well, it's in flux in terms
Repeat the
of.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. You can tell me if I'm getting this right, okay? Tell me more about hospitals having complementary care as part of their standard of care services. Okay. Thanks, Barb. I need that little nudge.
That's the sign.
This is the sign. Okay. There are hospitals in other states and other cities who are far ahead of us. I will say that. At University of Minnesota, when I went out there, they have 2 or 3 different very, very large hospitals who have an expanded array of integrative care available for all their patients. In every room, for example, in every room there's a CD player, and they bring around a cart that has CDs that are evidence-based CDs for relaxation, to help reduce your pain, to help you sleep better, et cetera, et cetera. They're also using aromatherapy. They have a team of people that do energy work. So they have healing touch as well as therapeutic touch, as well as Reiki that people can get. They've actually now integrated into, when you go into the lobby of one of the hospitals, in the lobby there's an integrative health clinic. So even when you're not when you're an inpatient, you can ask to have a massage. Obviously, unless you have a doctor's order for that, it would be added onto your bill. But most of the time, the doctors are very supportive of that type of complementary therapies. So they have acupuncturists, herbalists, all of that right there in-house. Now that's on the wonderful end of the spectrum. Now, locally, we did have a hospital here, Virginia Mason, that used to have a massage service in the hospital. And that was available if your doctor gave a doctor's order, or you could just have it with, pay it yourself if you didn't have a doctor's order. Here at University Hospital, there are energy therapists. So there are people that do therapeutic touch as well as Reiki on request from patients. And in their palliative care, they include many different types of therapies. And in many hospitals, that's where you'll find the complementary or integrative services housed, is within the palliative care office. So if somebody asks, you usually find out what's available in the hospital where you're going to be. In terms of therapeutic touch, we have a listing of any nurse that's in any hospital, not just in this country, actually in every state in the United States as well as in other countries. So you can contact the local therapeutic touch people and ask, is there a therapeutic touch practitioner at this hospital versus this, and I'd like to put in a request for a treatment. So things are expanding, but they're also contracting, unfortunately. So like when the massage services were available, that was shut down about 2 years ago, and it's no longer available within that hospital. So it really varies across places.
So Whitefish is asking, what is a practical meditation technique that we can teach our agitated advanced dementia patients?
Can you re-say that?
What is a practical meditation technique that we can teach our agitated advanced dementia patients?
I would think that rather than say that we can all teach it, I think that it would be good to contact somebody locally who is a meditation teacher and have them come in, and first of all, they could teach the patients, and then the people at the institution, wherever it is, could learn the technique, and then they could teach the patients. But I think first you would have to be fairly knowledgeable about meditation. And so I think calling in somebody from the community who is expert, teaching the patients and observing that, but then also teaching the staff. There are very simple hand massage techniques that they have found work extremely well with advanced dementia patients. And I love Whitefish because it's such a cool place. I took my dad there for there were 2 Therapeutic Touch conferences in Whitefish, and I took my 87-year-old dad at the time and 88-year-old dad. Yeah, he loved Whitefish.
Are there many people in your region using osteopathic manual medicine? If so, have you seen this integrated into CAM used in hospitals and/or clinics there?
Osteopathic medicine, I don't need to repeat, right? Because you just
Right.
said it. Osteopathic medicine has gotten more and more and more credible within the traditional medical system. And so schools of osteopathy now their graduates are working side by side with conventional Western medical physicians. So there are many hospitals that have both osteopaths and Western medical physicians, MDs, on their staff, and they're equally valued and credible in most institutions now, actually.
Billings is asking if Medicare or Medicaid reimburses for these services.
It depends on the doctor, and it depends on how they code everything. That's the deal still. With Obamacare, there is a recognition more and more that many of these complementary therapies are actually saving the system money in the long run. So there's more coverage now than there was before, but it really depends on how open the practitioner is and what code they use for their referral. So did you have a question?
That was sort of my question, is insurance companies and evidence-based research, you'd think that they would want to insure these things.
Yeah, they're getting better. Since things are more evidence-based, the question was, or the statement was, that it seems like insurance would want to back these things more and more. Yes. I mean, something as simple as movement. If people would move more, it would decrease the medical expenditures in our country. So we do have insurance companies now that are paying for silver sneakers programs so that you can go into a health club and take a wellness exercise program. And there are other forms, but there are other modalities that are getting more and more leverage within the insurance companies. And for me, healthcare coaching is becoming more and more seen as a money saver. It's not why I went into it, but it's becoming a good rationale for large businesses to hire health coaches for their employees because it decreases their times out of work and their huge expenditures from the health care insurance of that company on injuries and other problems. So the preventative aspects are working in our favor, definitely.
And one of the sites adds on to that, even with the referral, insurances are not obligated to pay.
It depends on the insurance. It varies so much across insurance plans, companies. Yeah.
Do you know which insurances do more?
Do I know which? See, I was good. Do I know which insurance companies are more friendly? I don't. I should maybe, but I don't. That's a great nudge, though. And you had a question.
Can you just kind of explain your role and what your scope is as a health coach? I'm not really familiar with what.
Sure. Okay, what's my scope, eh? As a health coach. It really varies from working with people who are totally well, but interested in becoming more well. We work with people on what we call a well life vision. Like, what's your vision of how you would like to be in the future? Which works really well with people in terms of, like, do you want to, for me, use myself as an example. For me, I wasn't doing enough movement or exercise in terms of weight bearing because I have some osteoporosis. So I worked with a coach. We did some buddy coaching back and forth. And she wanted to know what would motivate me to do more of that type of movement or exercise. And I said, I really wanted to be able to pick up my grandkids someday. I don't have any yet. But when I have them, I want to be able to pick them up and play with them and run around and do all kinds of stuff with them. And it was like, bingo. So I am now doing really well with that particular form of movement and exercise and calcium and everything else that I need to do to ensure that I can pick up my grandkids. So the coach works with you to help you determine what would motivate you. What are the areas in your life where you think you need to be more well, that you'd like to be more well, and how could you get there? So they work with you on setting up what they call SMART goals. You've probably heard of that. Things that are specific and measurable and realistic and attainable and trackable, things like that. But you can also work with people that have any type of illness going on, because everyone wants to feel better. And so you work with them about what is it you'd like to feel better about in your current life, and then try to look at with them what would be a SMART goal. But you're looking at a full range of things, including what is their support system. And that's a big one for people. Do you have sufficient support to help you reach your goal? And if not, what can you do to get more support? That kind of thing. So it really, and what I love about it is you're integrating all kinds of modalities. So there's almost, I haven't met a person yet who couldn't benefit by some more relaxation techniques. There's nobody at this school that wouldn't benefit. There's nobody inside of these four walls practically that wouldn't benefit from relaxation techniques. So it's lovely. There's always something that you can ask them, well, how about, what would you like to learn? What would you like to do? But you take off your nursing hat for a while, because you really aren't telling them what they should be doing. You ask them, where do they think they'd like to go with this? And then work with them as kind of an ally to get there. It's kind of fun, actually. Does that help a bit?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Columbus, Montana says, the Chalice of Repose used to be in Missoula, Montana, and offered a wonderful service of music therapy that was tuned to the patient's body and needs. St. Patrick's Hospital still employs a harpist who is wonderful with her treatments.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, there are pockets of hope in terms of institutions that have really beautiful things going on. That was lovely. I'm glad they wrote that.
And then someone else says that massage therapy is still not a recognized certification in the state of Wyoming that can be billed unless a licensed PT or OT is directly overseeing the care when it is provided.
Wow. That's interesting, because that's very different than our state. Wow. Yes.
Here in King County, there's the Enhanced Wellness Program has wellness coaches from that evidence-based
Yeah.
stuff that they did with the exercise.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Good. Do you think they heard her? No. Maybe I should lend you my mic.
She was talking about how Enhanced Wellness has wellness coaches, and they do a bit of mutual goal setting with the individual.
And so for low-income seniors, it's focused on low-income seniors, so it's exciting through sound generation.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think that's something that in my own health coaching, my goal is to be doing something to serve the horrible health disparities that exist in Tacoma. So I teach in Tacoma now, and it's wonderful because I get to work with the people that live on the hilltop, and that's who I would really like to serve. So I'm conjuring up a program that will help them. I think that's something we need to think about in terms of integrative health, is how do we serve those who have not been served adequately.
Kalispell Regional Medical Center offers free massage to patients prior and after surgery or deliveries or any hospitalization, really, they say.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Montana, eh? Right? Kalispell, Montana?
I think so.
I think so.
I don't know geography that well, though, so
I
don't
think
quote me.
I think it's Montana. So, Montana.
Yes, Montana.
Yes. Okay. Go Montana. Yes. Any other questions in-house? I guess not. Any from away? It's kind of like far
Not seeing
away.
anymore. It seems like they have all kinds of insights about what's offered around the area. So
Isn't
that's
it
good to hear.
wonderful?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Oh, wait, let's see. Wonderful, thank you very much.
Oh, well, wonderful. Okay. Thank you all.
And thank you for the picture.
Yes, that's
Great.
gorgeous.
Very welcome.